Hello.
A sunny day in Los Angeles brought the usual bustle to the streets. Keanu Reeves, dressed in plain jeans, a t-shirt, and a cap to stay inconspicuous, walked into a small supermarket near his home. He always tried to shop alone, enjoying the simple moments of everyday life. The store was quite crowded. Customers were in a hurry to finish their shopping, and employees were bustling between the shelves. A young woman, visibly pregnant, but with a smile on her face, was working at the checkout. She quickly punched in items, thanking customers who rarely returned the favor. Her movements were confident, but Keanu noticed that she occasionally put her hand to her back as if she was in pain. Despite her fatigue, she tried to create a pleasant experience for each customer. Keanu stood in line and couldn't take his eyes off the cashier. He overheard one of the customers, irritated by the wait, begin to express dissatisfaction with her speed. The woman continued to work, apologizing, but her face betrayed fatigue and slight confusion. The other customers also gave her indifferent looks, as if her condition was something commonplace and not worthy of attention. When it came to Keanu's turn, he involuntarily noticed how her hands were trembling as she punched through the items. He asked himself why she wasn't taking a break, because she clearly needed to rest. But, apparently, no one in the store's administration was in a hurry to take care of their employees. A plan was forming in his mind. He looked closely at the woman and noticed that her eyes betrayed more than fatigue. They were the eyes of a person who was trying her best to hold on despite the circumstances. Perhaps she had to work long hours to provide for herself and the child she was about to have. The thought made his heart clench. Keanu finished his shopping and saw the store manager on his way out. She was a middle-aged woman with a stern face who didn't seem to be paying attention to what was going on around her. He decided to approach her to find out why the pregnant employee was not able to take a break. The administrator barely looked up and said something indifferent, as if it was not her concern. This answer only made Keanu's desire to do something stronger. He couldn't leave things as they were. He had a plan in his head to help this woman, but first he wanted to learn more about her story. His intuition told him that behind that sincere smile was a struggle. As Keanu left the supermarket, he couldn't forget about the pregnant cashier. Her tired look and the effort she was making to remain friendly continued to worry him. He decided to take action, but first he needed to learn more about her situation. Deciding to return to the store the next day, he had a plan, not only to talk to her, but also to find a way to help. The next morning, Keanu returned to the same supermarket. This time he decided to be more careful not to draw too much attention to himself. He walked through the store, buying a few unnecessary things to have an excuse to be there. Eventually, he saw the same cashier again. Her movements were calm, but her fatigue had not disappeared. She still had a smile on her face, but it seemed forced. Keanu noticed that she was working without a break. None of her coworkers came up to offer to replace her, and that only made him more frustrated. The man decided to stand in line at her cash register, carefully observing how she interacted with customers. Her patience was impressive. Even when someone spoke rudely or threw change on the counter, she reacted with dignity. When it was his turn, Keanu looked her in the eye. He wanted to say something, but he knew he couldn't just start a conversation with a stranger about her problems. He noticed her name tag with her name on it, Sophia. This name suited her. It radiated calmness and strength. He decided to save his questions for later. After he paid for his purchases, Keanu left the store, but this time he stayed close by. He noticed Sophia wiping her forehead with her hands several times and the receptionist passing by without paying attention. His indignation grew. He realized that Sophia needed help, but he didn't know how best to approach the issue so as not to offend her. A few minutes later, the store began to close for a break. Sophia went outside holding a small bottle of water. She sat down on a bench near the entrance, and Keanu decided to take advantage of this opportunity. He approached and politely asked if he could join her. Sophia was surprised, but nodded. Keanu started the conversation with neutral topics, talking about his day, and even joking about how hard it was to find the right product in the supermarket. Sophia smiled, although her smile still seemed tired. Gradually, the conversation turned to her work. She said that she had been working in this supermarket for over a year, and although it was a difficult job, she was grateful for the opportunity to earn money. She explained that her husband had died in an accident when she had just found out she was pregnant. Since then, she has been working to provide for herself and her unborn child. Sophia admitted that she works 2 jobs and often has to sacrifice her rest for a stable income. She said it calmly, but her eyes betrayed pain and fatigue. Keanu was impressed by her story. He saw a strong woman who did not give up despite all the difficulties. Her struggle for a better life for her child touched him to the core. He realized that he could not stand aside. He thanked Sophia for the conversation and said he wished her all the best. But he had a plan in his head. He decided to act to make her life easier and give her a chance to get some rest before the baby was born. The next day, Keanu returned to the supermarket. But this time he didn't come empty-handed. He brought with him several boxes of things for the baby: clothes, diapers, bottles, and a crib. In addition, he bought a certificate for a considerable amount of money that could be used to buy everything he needed. He also wrote a letter expressing his support for Sophia and thanking her for her strength and resilience. When Sophia saw all these things, her eyes filled with tears. She couldn't believe that someone she barely knew had done so much for her. She thanked Keanu, but he only replied, "It's the least I can do. You've earned it with your strength and dedication." This gesture of kindness did not go unnoticed. Other store employees and even customers who witnessed the incident began sharing the story on social media. People were touched and inspired by Keanu's act. Sophia felt that she was no longer alone in her struggle, and it gave her new strength. When Sophia's story began to spread on social media, the supermarket suddenly became a place where people came not only to shop, but also to see a woman who had become a symbol of strength and endurance. People shared their words of support, brought gifts for her unborn child, and some even offered to help. Sophia was amazed at how much kindness and compassion strangers showed her. The store management, who had previously ignored her condition, was now forced to act and create more comfortable working conditions for Sophia. They provided her with additional breaks and assistance from her colleagues. However, the main change for Sophia was that she no longer felt alone in her struggle. Meanwhile, Keanu Reeves remained out of the spotlight. He did not seek fame or recognition for his actions. What mattered to him was that Sophia got the help she needed. But the story didn't stop there. One day, a journalist came to the store and wanted to interview Sophia for a local TV channel. Sophia was a little confused, but agreed to tell her story. During the interview, she shared how difficult it was to work in her condition and how hard she was working to secure a future for her child. She also spoke about the help she received from Keanu. Sophia emphasized that this act changed her life and restored her faith in people. The interview caused a great response, and the story quickly spread across the country. People began to create an online fundraiser for Sophia. Funds came from all over the world. Many wrote words of support, thanking her for her courage. Sophia decided that she would donate some of the money to other mothers in similar circumstances. She wanted her story to be an inspiration to others. The supermarket became an even more popular place, and the management realized how important it was to treat employees humanely. They began to implement new policies that provided a comfortable environment for pregnant employees and those who needed additional support. These changes affected not only Sophia, but all of her coworkers. One day, Keanu returned to the supermarket, but he did so unnoticed. He wanted to see how Sophia was feeling and see if there was anything else he could do for her. He saw that she was looking much better. Her smile was more sincere, and her eyes no longer betrayed the tiredness he had seen before. Keanu approached Sophia, and they had a short conversation. She thanked him for everything he had done and said that what he had done had changed not only her life, but the lives of many others. Keanu, as humble as ever, just smiled and said that it was the smallest contribution he could make. Now Sophia became a symbol of change in her supermarket, and her story continued to inspire many. Every day, she received new words of support and thanked the world for still being full of good people. She knew there were many challenges ahead, but now she no longer felt alone. After Sophia's story went viral and attracted the attention of thousands of people, she began to feel her life changing. A charity campaign organized by strangers brought her the financial stability she had been missing. These funds allowed her to take the maternity leave she had been putting off for so long. Sophia, who had previously worked 7 days a week, could now finally focus on preparing for the birth of her child. The supermarket where she worked also changed. The administration began to work more actively on the working conditions of its employees. The conditions for pregnant employees became a priority, and new rules ensured regular breaks and a more humane attitude. Other employees thanked Sophia for drawing attention to the problems they were experiencing but did not dare to voice. Meanwhile, Sophia continued to receive words of support. She began sharing her story at local events and in the media, encouraging others not to be afraid to speak up about their needs. Her story has become an example of how a community can change the life of one person, and that person in turn can influence the entire system. One day, Sophia was invited to a charity event organized to support mothers in difficult life circumstances. She was one of the main guests and had to speak in front of a large audience. At first, she was nervous, but her desire to help others outweighed her fear of public speaking. On the stage, Sophia shared her story about the loss of her husband, the difficulties of working in her condition, and how one act of a stranger changed her life. She explained how important it is not to lose hope and how even a little help can be life-saving. Her speech received a standing ovation, and many people came up to her after the speech, thanking her for her inspiration and promising to support her initiatives. Meanwhile, Keanu, who has always remained in the shadows of this story, watched it unfold. He was happy to see Sophia blossom and take advantage of the new opportunities that opened up for her. He believed that his role was insignificant, but the result it brought was impressive to him. Keanu decided to send Sophia a letter with warm words of support. In it, he thanked her for taking his help and turning it into something more. He emphasized that her strength and courage were an inspiration not only to him, but to thousands of people around the world. Sophia, upon receiving this letter, could not hold back her tears. For her, it was another confirmation that her story is important. Because of the attention to her situation, Sophia decided to start a foundation to help single mothers. She dreamed that women facing similar difficulties would have a place where they would always be listened to and supported. The foundation quickly found support, as many people who followed Sophia's story were ready to help. The opening of the foundation was a new milestone in Sophia's life. Her child, who was born a few months later, became a symbol of her new beginning. Sophia felt that now she was not only a mother, but also part of a great mission that helped change the lives of others. After Sophia's foundation became active, her life changed even more. She was no longer just a former cashier struggling to survive. She became the voice of the previously silent, uniting mothers in difficult circumstances. Her foundation organized regular meetings where women could share their experiences, receive legal and psychological support, and learn new skills for employment. Keanu, having learned about her initiatives, decided to support Sophia again. He organized a private meeting during which he offered to cooperate in scaling up her project. Keanu suggested involving other famous personalities in charitable initiatives to raise even more funds and draw attention to the problems of single mothers. At first, Sophia was confused because it was hard for her to imagine that her small initiative could become something so big. But her determination and Keanu's support gave her the confidence to move forward. Together, they organized a charity event in Los Angeles that brought together actors, musicians, and entrepreneurs who wanted to make a difference. The evening was a real success. During the event, Sophia gave a speech in which she thanked everyone for their support and reminded them how important even the smallest acts of kindness are. Her words touched everyone present, and many of the guests made significant donations to the foundation. Thanks to the money raised, the foundation expanded its activities. New maternity support centers were opened in several cities. Sophia continued to visit these centers personally, get to know the women she helped, and share her story. Her presence inspired many and gave them hope. In addition, the foundation began to cooperate with companies that offered employment for mothers, creating flexible working conditions for them. This allowed many women to feel financially stable and find a balance between career and family. Sophia did not forget about her child. Her son, who grew up in love and support, became her main motivation. She wanted him to grow up in a world where kindness and mutual assistance were commonplace. On the first anniversary of the foundation's work, Sophia organized a big event dedicated to everyone who supported her along the way. Keanu was the guest of honor, but as always, he stayed in the shadows, allowing Sophia to be the center of attention. She thanked him from the stage, emphasizing that his act changed not only her life, but the lives of thousands of other people. This story became an example of how one person can change the world around them. Sophia continued her mission, knowing that there was still much work to be done. But she was no longer alone in her struggle. Her foundation, the support of the community, and her love for her son gave her the strength to move forward.
Bye bye.